What's up, guys? It's Will and John back once again. The MMA Huddle is here for another fight card as we're going to break down the fight between Derek Brunson and Edmen Shahbazyan, which is turning into a headliner for this one here. They're back in Las Vegas. They've came through UFC Fight Island. I thought the UFC actually did a really sterling job with everything that they put on down in Abu Dhabi. But now they're back into America and back into ruling off fight cards week in, week out in Las Vegas on the run-up to UFC 252, the big pay-per-view there. And we've kind of got a filler card here to kind of get started back in the American kind of scene again, with obviously Brunson and Shahbazyan as the main card. We're about to get into that in a wee second. John, how are you? I know that I've not been around for a little bit. I've been a little bit unwell. I'm still not feeling great. How are you keeping, and did you enjoy the fights at the weekend that passed by there? I
just enjoyed the whole Fight Island concept. At first it was a bit different, but obviously because of the circumstances we're in, they're looking to go back. I think they have to go back. It's some kind of contractual agreement the UFC will have with them. Don't get me wrong, some of the media questions were absolutely outlandish, and the people who get credentials is quite embarrassing. But apart from that, it looked great, the whole setup, and obviously you can imagine then with a crowd when they have people there, it will still be it'll still be fantastic. It's even I sat there and went, oh, I hate the idea of going to a place like that on a holiday because it's just sand and concrete buildings. But for the fight cards, that would be something else doing that experience. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, mate. And obviously we've got a fight card coming up. Not the strongest fight card, this. But we're building up. I'm more interested in Stipe and DC because there's a lot of questions in that fight. And, that's something I've been thinking about because I thought if DC wins and retires, then you've got a vacant belt, and then you've got to find two new guys to come up and fight for it. You can't have Stipe go fight for it because he just lost it. And it's awkward, man. The UFC are hedging their bets that Stipe wins because they kind of need to win. They can't have, and then DC can just go. But yeah, man, so there's a lot into that I'm quite looking forward to. But yeah, man, we're going to get this card done, and I'm glad you're back and healthy. Obviously, we had a few people shouting out to you as well, hoping you get back and get back up to health. And so you're nearly there.
Yeah, slowly but surely I'm getting there. I'm still not feeling overly great, but like I said, I'm getting there. But I'm good enough to come on here this week. I'm not spewing my ring up like I was last week. It was some rough times last week. So we're going to get into the fight card. We've got a late notice replacement here jumping in for Luke Sanders, as it's Chris Gutiérrez against Cody Durden. Like I said, a newcomer coming to the UFC. I think you didn't really know much about this fight being made, so how do you kind of see it going anyway?
Well, I was a bit annoyed because I hadn't been online on Sunday pretty much. Most of Sunday I wasn't online. I was out all day and enjoying myself, as you do. So I don't really pay attention. And then obviously on a Saturday was when I did my tape study with Luke and Chris. So at the time that fight was on, I'm still kind of high on Chris Gutiérrez as a general, as a fighter, because I just like the fact the amount of feints and the fakes he throws, the switching of the footwork, and the leg kicks. He's got an arsenal there of weapons, which doesn't sound like much, but when you can make your opponent stop their game with feints and leg kicks, you have basically got the game in your hands. You've got the fight. Almost, you won't even need to apply to wrestling. He's great for getting back up. Chris Gutiérrez has got good kind of springing back up again if he gets to take it down. And I don't know much about Cody Durden, to be honest with you, so I don't want to comment on him. But I would go with Chris anyway, because a guy coming in short notice, it's a lot to ask for in the UFC debut against a guy who's got an experience now in the UFC and had a few fights. And I like Chris Gutiérrez as a fighter in general, really. I think there's a nice addition to the bantamweight where I think Chris can get a bit higher in the rankings. He could maybe hit top 15 at some point.
Yeah, I like Gutiérrez as well in this fight. I know a little bit about Durden. I've seen a couple of his fights, and I know that he's local to a couple of guys that I know in the kind of Georgia area that I've been around this guy and so on. But from what I hear and what I see, he's more of a wrestler. So I think his game plan here is going to be coming in and wrestling. I don't think he can go strike for strike with Gutiérrez, who's got some very powerful weapons that can really kind of stop the show very, very quickly. And he did that against Vince Morales, where he blew through him with leg kicks. I mean, he's got some very vicious leg kicks. Now, in saying that, I'm not super impressed with the caliber of opposition that he's fighting. Morales is tough, but he was really throwing nothing back. He was really just kind of defending and not getting hit with those leg kicks. Ryan McDonald, De Freitas, I think. De Freitas is a half-decent win, but McDonald and Vince Morales, I'm not super high on those guys. And like I say, you've got Durden who comes in here. He's got a decent overall game, I think, but I just think his path to victory is through his wrestling. If he can establish his wrestling, get the fight to the ground, I think he can maybe win portions of the fight down there. But I think on the feet, I think he's going to get hit up with some big strikes. So I've got Gutiérrez in that one to win. I'll go TKO. I think accumulation of strikes will start to set in. The short notice kind of effect of the coming into this fight here to kind of take place, and I think that Gutiérrez will get another win in his resume. Moving on, featherweight division, we've got. I think it's the featherweight division.
Yeah.
For some reason, I want to say this is bantamweight, but I don't know why. We've got Jamall Emmers against another newcomer to the UFC, and Timur Valiev, who is a guy that I've known about for a very long time. I actually did a video on my channel way back in February or March. I was like, this is one of the guys I think the UFC need to sign to come into the UFC. And last week, the fight got announced that he was fighting Jamall Emmers here. And both guys are decent. I think Emmers is a very kind of serviceable fighter. A little bit decent kind of everywhere, but he's not great kind of anywhere. He's decent in all facets. And when you look at Valiev, in my opinion, he's not super. He's very, very fast, is what he is. He's super duper fast, and he throws a lot of combinations together. But he can maybe fight a little bit closer, kind of more than I like. Actually, I think that if he was to maybe just use a couple more things, like maybe get takedowns and kind of dominate through that, he doesn't do it. He doesn't really do anything too much that's kind of makes him look great. I don't, when I watch him, I don't get super excited about him, but he is a very solid newcomer at the UFC, and he ran through some people on the PFL. I think actually one of the crossovers was he fought Chris Gutiérrez, lost a close decision, which he to me he won. Then he came and he rematched in the next fight out and beat Chris Gutiérrez, who we were just talking about. But a guy coming out from Russia, I think he fights out of Mark Henry's gym in New Jersey. I've seen him in the corner a few times, and I've seen Frankie Edgar and Ricardo Almeida as well. But he fights very kind of close. Sometimes he fights a little bit too close for my liking. But he is very, very solid in a lot of areas. I think he's a really good addition to this kind of to the division. I thought for some reason this was going to be at 135. I don't know why I initially kind of thought that. Emmers went to the UFC. He's a guy that people I think talk about because he beat Cody Sanhagen way back. But that was a different kind of Cody Sanhagen back then. Came on to the Dana White Contender Series, was a pretty sizable favourite against Julian Erosa. I think he was anyway, and then got knocked out in the second round with a kind of a head. Back to the scene, won a few fights against not really great fighters. Got his opportunity to come in there against Giga. The win against Barboza actually thinks decent. I think Barboza's a decent fighter, but came in there, fought very close against Giga, and he was a little bit unlucky in that fight. I thought he maybe did enough to maybe get his hand raised in that one, but I think this fight's going to be very close. I think Timur's going to look to really plant him up against the cage, maybe try and get takedowns. I think he might struggle initially. I think eventually he might find a way at the ground and kind of win. I've got him winning a very, very, very kind of close fight. I'm not super confident in him, honestly, because he does fight a little bit too close to my liking, but I'll take Valiev. I'll take him via a 29-28 decision.
Yeah, I like this fight, only because I hopefully can see a better version of Emmers, because I thought when you're fighting Giga and you're standing up most of the fight, that just blew my head. And that signaled to me either two options: poor fight IQ, or just nervous. You know, his debut, he just... debut. I just thought maybe nerves on Emmers there. I thought maybe because he just wasn't thinking, wasn't listening to his coach. Why would you fight a guy who's got a stronger base in the striking? I don't get it. He was not winning that battle. He was not winning that fight at any point on the feet. So why would you not go to the facet that's stronger and clearly for Giga is his weakness? It blew my mind. Now, I think Valiev is like you said, Will, he comes fast out the block swinging when he throws. He throws heavy because he likes to almost crash into you to get you against the cage. And when he gets you against the cage, that's something he's very good at, is that cage control. He's very good at pinning guys up to the cage and just grinding them down. And then obviously he works in for his own takedowns off that. He's got a superb little top game as well, nice and heavy. And like you said, Will, a Chris Gutiérrez fight, it was PFL, wasn't it? Yeah, it was good. They were good fights because stylistically they're two different guys, striker, grappler. In that sense, with that fight, it was all different games. But I really kind of feel Valiev can just kind of stifle Emmers here. I think he can just close it off on him. And Emmers wants space, but I don't think it's. And obviously, Emmers on top is a stronger opponent, but I think he's going to be on the back with Valiev. I think he's just going to have a rough time against him. I think he'll have a hard fight to get off on here. So I just think Emmers probably lose a decision here. Now, I don't think he's going to. I wouldn't write him off in the UFC altogether, but I just don't think he's going to have a good time here. I just think Valiev can just get this decision win. I just think he'll out-grapple him. The work rate as well is something that Valiev has in his pocket. He goes 3 rounds, and he goes hard, and he looks great the whole 3 rounds. I've not seen him looking exhausted with the output that he has, especially on the grappling front. So I'm going Valiev on this one. I think he can get a decision win with just the dominance of the cage work and grappling.
Up next, we've got Eric Spicely against Maluco Perez in the middleweight division. This is a good fight. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Perez because I think I say this all the time. He's a little bit exciting. You don't know what you're kind of going to get with the guys. So how do you kind of see this one going?
That for me, I'm not. Like, I know Eric Spicely's back in the UFC, but I'm not overly arsed about Eric Spicely being back in the UFC. He's just in there because they were short notice and they got him back in there. But I just think Perez here all day. I just think with Spicely, you just got to keep it standard and hit him. And I think Markus could do that. I think Markus could hit him on the feet, keep him off him, and could absolutely win this fight. I don't see why he would. I don't see how Eric Spicely can't get him to the ground. I think Eric Spicely will have a tough time getting him to the ground. I just think him, like Markus Perez, can just take the best out of this fight and just get this fight on the feet and hurt Spicely. You've seen Spicely when he fought. Was it Deron Winn? Yeah, it was Deron Winn. Yeah, Deron Winn didn't spark him out, but I think when you get a guy who can hit like a Darren Stewart, and I think Markus Perez has got good pop in his hands. I think he's got good hands on us. Like, he's got good power. I think he's going to have a tough time. And I think here you're going to see it. I think you're going to see Perez with the kind of TKO stoppage. I think the referee will pull him off. Because when he gets on top, Perez, he's actually solid on top as well. With his ground game, his grappling, with ground and pound. I think Spicey's going to have a rough time when he gets hit. When he gets hit, he's going to start hurting. And Perez has got pretty good gas tank. He could go pretty good for 3 rounds. Like, I've been pretty impressed as a middleweight with his conditioning, so I'm going Perez here for a finish over Spicely.
Yeah, I look at this fight and I'm thinking, where does Spicely have any real kind of advantage? And I'm like, I don't think he's got it on the ground, and I don't think he's got it on the feet. So I'm like, I think Perez is handily a favourite in this one. Of course, Spicely's got a lot of fights in the UFC where, like, that experience of obviously being there, but this is a massive fight for him, because if he doesn't win this here, he's what, 4 or 5 losses in a row. That's not going to kind of keep you around in the UFC at all. I think even if he loses this fight, I'd be surprised if the UFC kept him around for another fight. I'm sure his contract's 4 fights or something, but when you've won like 0-5 in your last 5 UFC fights, that you shouldn't be really kept around. I think Perez has got some power. I think he's a little bit. He's got that kind of awkward kind of fight style as well, and I think as long as he doesn't get into a position where Spicely maybe takes the back or gets the neck, I think he should handily kind of win this fight. And I actually think he could stop the fight himself. I mean, in the Deron Winn fight, Spicely threw a lot of output in that one, get hit with a lot of shots against a smaller fighter. But I think there's a lot of kind of good vibes on the Perez side of this one here. I'd be super surprised, honestly, if Spicely come out here and really kind of dominated the fight. So in that aspect, I'm going to take Maluco Perez. They're taking via stoppage. I mean, Spicely has been hard to kind of finish. I'll take Perez via decision, but I think the opportunity for a finish is definitely there as well. So moving on, we have Ray Borg against another newcomer, which I'm kind of surprised he's getting an opportunity here. I'm sure there's other fighters that would prefer to fight Ray Borg than getting a newcomer that's probably should have came through the Contender Series, which is starting soon, and Nathan Maness. And I watched some fights of him, and like I said, I'm not overly impressed. I think what he has here is he's got a big reach advantage where he could possibly keep Ray Borg kind of at a distance here, but I've not seen too many things here where Maness can stop takedowns, and I think that can be a really good kind of path to victory for Ray Borg, who we know is a really good grappler, but has faced some really kind of tough grapplers recently. But the one thing I will say in the fight, was it Merab, the Merab fight, or the Ricky Simone fight? Wasn't it Merab? It was Ricky Simone, yeah. His striking, I thought, looked phenomenal. I thought he looked really good in that aspect. But like I say, he is predominantly known as a grappler. I think he can absolutely use this to his advantage all day here. He has to get inside that reach. I don't think he's going to win a boxing match with Maness. So what he has to do is maybe mix it up, get those takedowns. I think he will rip him to the ground, and I think he's got a big chance of getting a submission here. He's had some tough fights recently. I mean, even though he beat Gabriel Silva, I'm maybe more high on Gabriel Silva than most people are. Bontarin's very strong. That's a really good win. Ricky Simon, like I said, I thought his striking looked phenomenal. I want to say he got some takedowns in that fight as well, but ultimately just the relentless style of Ricky Simone actually just went in there and he just kind of kept on going for those takedowns there. That's what it is. He never got any takedowns. I remember he got back to his feet very quickly. But like I say, his strikes when they were landing were definitely the cleaner, harder strikes. So I like that kind of aspect in Ray Borg. But I think here, I don't think he can have a boxing match with the kind of ranger guy here. So I'm going to take Ray Borg to get this fight, kind of rip it to the ground and get a submission. So I'll take Ray Borg via sub in that one there.
Yeah, I'm going Ray Borg in this one as well. When I watched the Maness on CKO, as in the promotion, he got the title, he won his title, and with a nice left hand. It was a very patient fight. He's very patient though when he's fighting it. And then he fought Lapalus, who just overwhelmed him with skill. He cannot handle someone pressuring him with an output. Lapalus just lit him up. And you look at that, and I'm like, what? And he stopped by his sidekick. Now, don't get me wrong, it was obviously an accumulation of the body strikes, and eventually that one body strike was just the one that tipped him over the edge, so to speak. But I was a bit taken back. I was wondering what the reason was for them signing him, if I'm honest with you. I was a bit surprised that, I get against Ray Borg, probably more so. I just thought he does have the range, but I don't know if he'll use the range as well, because I think Ray Borg's going to be just very smart. He's going to just bait Maness in for striking, and then Ray Borg's going to initiate that grappling. It's there for Ray Borg to get, because he does get people down. He does grapple well, scrambles well. It's a suitable fight for Ray Borg, this, to get a nice little win. I'm with you. Well, I think he could get the fight to the ground. He could probably get a choke submission win. If not, like a ground and pound TKO or something. I think Ray could absolutely get this stoppage here, because I just think Nathan, for me, I've not seen anything that's made him stand out for me. Even his stoppage to win the belt with that left straight, I just thought it was just poor defense from the opponent. I didn't think there was anything great about that. He just launched it out there. But yeah, I'm going Ray Borg all down this. I just can't even see where Nathan's going to win the fight, mate.
Yeah, like I say, just when you brought up Lapalus there, Lapalus is a guy I think should be in the UFC.
100%, yeah, it's class.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and his name always comes up, and I always end up watching and looking through his record again. I'm thinking, this guy's got a good record, he fights tough, he's never been stopped, and I think he could have some very competitive fights with some very competitive people in the UFC. But like I say, he's obviously, I think he's maybe signed to that Aries promotion, the kind of African French one. So, but he's a good fighter. So he's fought a decent fighter, obviously, in Lapalus, and he did get stopped. But yeah, I'm just a little bit surprised that I think someone like Maness should have went through the kind of Contender Series route. But they've obviously wanted to get Ray Borg a fight, and they've threw him in here relatively quick with a big kind of veteran of the kind of lower weight division. So now we're going up to the light heavyweight division with two guys who've been around for the longest time as well. Talk about veterans. You have Ed Herman here against Gerald Meerschaert, who's coming in here short notice after Daeung Jung. I think the Koreans couldn't get into America, so they've got Gerald moving up here to 205. How do you kind of see this one going?
I was surprised they got Gerald in as well. I thought there was no other light heavyweights in America, but then again, maybe it's just the time to cut weight. Maybe Gerald's just thought he's probably about 215, cutting down to 205. At first, I thought, this is going to be a fun one. Ed's got a tricky character in Gerald because they're both veterans. Obviously, Ed's a bloody antique now. But one thing you do with tape study on it with Ed Herman is if you watch him these days, he plods his feet. He plants his feet down, and he just moves laterally around. He doesn't do anything explosive. He waits for you to come to him before he starts striking. He's not really overly engaging, and he likes to he has a bit of a barn burner, but he's hard to take down. He is old school. I think it was Team Quest, wasn't he? All those years ago with Henderson, all that. Pat Miletich. He is like a Sam Alvey. These guys are just hard to take down. They've got such great fundamental wrestling defense. They're hard to get down. You don't see Ed Herman often get thrown around and taken and ragdolled. He's just a good wrestler, good control. And I think here in this aspect, Gerald's path to victory ideally is the ground game. With the submissions that he's got on his record, as well as his skill set, that's where he'd like the fight to go. I just don't see him getting Ed down. Even when in the third round, Ed's not tired because Ed doesn't do much. He just walks around, so he's not exhausted. He's just very energy efficient. Let's say Ed is, and he's got a bit of power in him. We've seen Gerald hurt several times in the UFC, getting hit. Ed is just going to wait for Gerald to come into that space. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Gerald's a slow start. We know this. He's like a cowboy. First round, super slow. Gets into it in the second, third round. I think Ed Herman probably could maybe get a win here with decision. I think like a 2-1. I think Gerald might even get one round, but I think Ed should have the experience here to just stop the takedowns and land heavy, hard shots on Gerald when they engage in the striking. Just wait till Gerald gets close enough and then just whack 3 or 4 shots at him and then just go back to it again. So I'd go Ed Herman here, but it's not an easy fight for Gerald. I don't know if he thinks it is, but definitely not.
Yeah, I'm going with Ed Herman as well. I think the whole short notice thing here, I don't know whether Meerschaert was in the gym even getting ready for it. Well, I know that he lost back in early June, so he never had a fight scheduled. And they obviously moving up a division against someone like Ed Herman, who, like I say, he's past his prime. The guy's still doing enough to win fights against these type of fighters, like your kiddies Bragimov, who's, like, to be fair, he's kind of blew out of not being a kind of good fighter in the UFC. I doubt we'll very much see him again. But like you say, Herman, I keep picking against him, and he seems to just keep on winning. So, but I think this is a favourable spot for him for the fact that, I mean, you can get him down. I have seen like many kind of people take him down. I remember the Dollaway fight, he got him down, but he's really hard to kind of keep down there and do anything really damaging against. I mean, Cummins got him down, popped back to his feet really quickly, and then he got the TKO. Bragimov, to his credit, he did get him down, but they were very kind of momentarily takedowns where they didn't really kind of last all too long, and he popped back to his feet, and once he got back to his feet, he was just landing at a higher clip, was landing heavier shots. And I think that's kind of what could be here. Meerschaert, to me, I thought he was making improvements with his striking, and maybe he was, and maybe he just got a little bit too kind of brought into that and got caught with a big shot by Ian Heinisch, and then get knocked out. But Meerschaert as well, he's one of those guys that wins one, loses one, wins one, loses one, and he's coming off a loss, so it wouldn't surprise me if he jumps back in here and gets a win. But I think this is going to be kind of sloppy in spots. I think Meerschaert will get momentary takedowns, but I think that Herman will get back to his feet. And I think once he gets back to his feet, I think he will smash in some leg kicks, put on a couple of nice shots on the feet, and win a very kind of close, slow-paced fight via decision. But I'm going to go with Ed Herman, which is something I honestly didn't think I'd be doing in 2020, is picking Ed Herman to kind of win fights in the UFC. But I think this is a favourable spot for him here, and he can get it done. So Ed Herman for the win there. Moving on, we've got Frankie Saenz against Jonathan Martinez. I don't want to say that Frankie's done, but I think he is on the way to kind of being. He's definitely in the latter part of his career here, but he has obviously a skill set in it with his wrestling that is. Was he 40 years old now as well? Jeez,
39, 40, something like that.
He's got path to victory in his wrestling, because that's something that he has used kind of in the past here and there. His striking has been okay in some fights. I mean, his losses aren't too bad fighters. You've got, if you're going back, I mean, we're going back nearly 5 years now, but Faber, who was kind of fighting his pomp then, Wineland, who was a former champion, got knocked out in the third round there. Tanquinho, which I felt he maybe could have got the opportunity to kind of win that fight, but I thought Tanquinho deserved to win. And then he's got a win over Meerschaert. I don't know how he managed to pull that one out, honestly, considering he got taken down 11 times in that fight. Beat Briones, got his takedowns in that one, outstruck him as well, and then came back against Cheeto and got absolutely flatlined with a beautiful punch there.
Yeah.
Martinez, to me, he's really kind of shocked me in the UFC, and I think he's actually put a decent run together, and he's only, put a decent run together, he's 2-2 in the company, but he's had some very kind of close, decent fights, and he's shown some nice striking. I think overall he's a nice kind of solid fighter. I thought he was a little bit unlucky as well against Andre Ewell. I think he got down on the cards a little bit early in that one there, and kind of Andre just really kind of snuck out a kind of very close split decision win.
It was close.
Yeah, but we've not seen. Martinez has been taken down a few times. Burin got him down. Sukumtath got him down, which is not great. But if he's on the feet here, he is definitely the more technical striker. He's faster, cuts angles better, a little bit more varied with his striking, where I think Frankie's definitely going to come in and get takedowns now. If he can get takedowns and establish kind of top down, I think he'll win the fight. But I think I'm going to edge Martinez. Let me actually check the betting line in this one. This kind of interests me. I don't think I've looked into this one. Oh, so -210 for Jonathan Martinez, which to me kind of says there's maybe a little bit of value on the side of Frankie Saenz if you think he can get takedowns and do that. I don't think he can, personally. I'm going to go Jonathan Martinez. Actually, I'm going to pick him via knockout in the third round. I think he's going to catch Frankie with a shot at some point and put him down and win the fight via knockout. So I've got Martinez via TKO.
Nice. I was stuck on this one because Frankie's shown good. Like, you can't write him off like you said, Will, because he has won some of the fights. Briones, though, was the guy who was, I think, the same age as him when they both fought as well, like 38 at the time. But he still got the win. Solid wrestler. Martinez, good all-rounder. I think Martinez here in this fight, his goal is to have solid takedown, getting up defense. Not that I reckon they get taken down in this fight. I think Martinez can get taken down because I think Frankie's got good wrestling. He has got solid wrestling on that side of things. I hope if Frankie decides to stand with him, I think it would just be a silly thing to do because, I know he got stopped by Cheeto, he got hit a few times, and he is there to be hit, and I don't think it's worth it if I'm Frankie Saenz to get hit. Just engage in the grappling aspect, try to get the fight to the ground, and just dominate from top. I think Martinez here, his path here is, for me, when he gets taken down, is having that spring back up. As soon as a takedown comes on, don't waste any time. Shoot back up. Fight for the takedown. Fight to get up straight away. Don't be waiting there. Don't be like holding guard. I hope that if he does that, it'll disparage Frankie's takedown attempts, and it will also make Frankie have to work hard for nothing. And the last thing you want to do in a fight is work hard for a takedown and get nothing out of it. The Meerschaert fight, mate, I still don't get it. But Frankie, for me, I'm going Martinez split because I think Frankie could kind of maybe look at like he's getting the win here with the possible takedowns. From some judges might score it that way, but I go Martinez on a decision here because I think he can have the higher output over the 3 rounds and land the better shots. I do think Martinez is not a bad a fun fight. He fights for the money. He'll fight for your money just like some of the fighters do. He'll go toe-to-toe with guys and just go out there. The Ewell fight was super tight. Even when I watched that back, it was super tight. So I've got Martinez split, but I would not be shocked if Frankie got a win on that one, because he can. Even though he's 39, 40 or whatever he is, he can. He's like Ed Herman, just veterans. They just know how to win sometimes.
Moving on the middleweights onto the main card now, we've got Kevin Holland stepping in here on short notice. He's coming in for, I want to say it was Young Jung Park, if I remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And he's facing Trevin Giles, who is coming off that win over James Krause, who I think had one of the most kind of credited performances I've seen in a long time, coming in like a day's notice or whatever it might have been. But this is a fun one at middleweight. It looks to me like Kevin Holland's putting it all together. How do you see this one playing out? Because Kevin Holland's fights are always kind of hard to kind of trust the guy, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to tip your cap off to James Krause, like you say there, Will. Like, that is proper gangster.
Yeah.
Proper gangster. Yeah, I like the matchup. Even I think it's a shame that it's short notice as well. It's actually when this match got made as a short notice, I went, do you know what? When I look at it now, I think it's actually a good goddamn fight. That that would have been a sick little fight to match up. So I'm quite happy to see it. I like you say, Will, Kevin Holland starting to find his feet. It seems like starting to get his groove on. Trevin Giles for me still bugs me a little bit. I still feel like with his striking, he's there. It's his style. I get it, but I still feel that he's sometimes open to get absolutely murdered in fights, like the way his hands and the way he moves. But for me, I'm kind of swaying towards Kevin Holland. I think Kevin Holland's got solid little kickboxing. I think he's got also the grappling aspect. I think Kevin Holland can actually get the fight to the ground if he and go for submission attempts. But I think Kevin Holland here for me, for the striking side of it, I think he can get this win. I think he's I don't know. Obviously, Kevin Holland mustn't be weighing too much to come in short notice at middleweight. The Anthony Hernandez fight, solid win. Anthony Hernandez is just going to be he's going to be a tough guy. Kevin obviously lost to Brendan Allen, but Brendan Allen's one of those little savages, isn't he? Let's be honest with you. He's just going to be he's going to be a nightmare for a lot of guys. Kind of like Edmen, Shahbazyan, he's going to be a tough one. But I just feel like Kevin's got a couple of paths to victory. I think that Kevin can get the more strikes than Giles. I think Giles is a bit too patient for my liking in fights. I sometimes feel like he could let fights get away from him that he should win. And I feel here Kevin can get the number of strikes, but he can engage the grappling, go for the takedowns, and try to get the win that way as well. Just accumulation of output of strikes, and when it starts to get a bit hairy, or even just to break the rhythm of the striking, go for the takedown attempts, and really just that way he'll have Kevin on the back foot. He'll have Kevin have Trevin second guessing about what's going to come next. Is it striking? Is it takedowns? And that will allow him then, Kevin, to have a bit more freedom when he's striking. I think he'll be able to land a little bit more and actually go a bit more aggressive to him. But I feel, for me, I'm going to go for Kevin Holland on this one. I think he could certainly get this, especially with the skill set he's got. I just think he's a more well-rounded fighter.
Yeah. I like Kevin Holland, but I've also bet him in a couple of spots where he just fights so stupid sometimes, and he's to be taken down, and you'd be like, Kevin, come on, just kind of concentrate. But he looked like he finally put that together in his last fight against Hernandez, where he wasn't really joking around, came out there, and he's got some good parts of his skill set which are very kind of damaging to a lot of other fights. He's very long, big knees up the middle. Just seen he's got his black belt in jiu-jitsu as well.
Travis Luque was that with?
Yeah, I think that's with Travis Luque, I believe.
He's a savage.
Yeah, that's a kind of legit kind of black belt, a guy that's been around the sport for a long time. I'm sure he did a lot to get his black belt, and now he's passing it on to Kevin Holland. And he was actually going to jump in and, like, we were talking about Hamza earlier on, he was going to jump back in 10 days' notice to fight Daniel Rodriguez at 170. So I think getting to 185 is fairly easy for the kid. So Trevin Giles, I've never been super impressed with him. I think when you get a guy coming in a day's notice, up, 2 weight divisions or something like that, maybe weight.
Yeah, well, even still, I think Krause is a mixture. He does the fun fights at 170, and if he wants to bother his arse to 155, he better be a good goddamn attractive fight. Because I think Krause is at the stage where he's not going to try and go for a title run. He's just picking good fights.
Yeah, And like he lost parts of that fight convincingly. He was getting hit with some strikes. He got taken down by James Krause. He tried to get some sub attempts off him and didn't really manage to find one, obviously, but got to a split decision, which is very, very credible in that spot, coming in on such short notice. Before that, was coming off a couple of sub losses, which is something that I think that Kevin Holland could take advantage of here. Obviously, he's just got his black belt, so he might actually, when he say, look, I've just got my black belt, this, that, and maybe look for a submission. But he's got a big, big reach advantage. He's got a lot of really good strikes on the feet. I hate his takedown defense. I think he can be double-legged very, very easily and taken down. But hopefully he comes in here focused, ready to go, because I think he's got a lot of opportunities to kind of win this fight here if he can find the right spot. So I'm going to take Kevin Holland. I'm going to take him via submission, actually. I think he catches him in the second or third round via submission, and we'll probably see Kevin Holland back in there again, because he seems to be one of these guys that likes to, as soon as he fights, get back in there quick again and keep going. So I've got Kevin Holland via sub in that one there.
Nice.
We've got a rematch next. We've got Lando Vannata against Bobby Green. I did not think we'd be seeing this fight ever again.
I don't know why they made it.
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to find fights or people that want to fight and just trying to put fights together, personally. So, and I know that Bobby Green, I know that he's been wanting to get back in there very, very quickly after his win over Clay Guida, which again, I actually thought he looked really good in that fight. I think there's some spots where Guida was getting some shots off, which was a little bit kind of discouraging, but he was fully putting output there on Clay Guida. Got taken down obviously a few times, but he also got some takedowns and was trying for a couple of sub attempts and using them to kind of get back to his feet as well. It's hard to be really super confident in either fighter here, because Bobby Green does some, again, like Kevin Holland, does some stupid shit that fights. But he's a guy that's got a lot of output. He can go very hard for 15 minutes, and he's very tricky to fight. And like I say, when these two fought away back in 2017, that ended up being a draw, which, if Lando didn't lose the point, you would see that he probably kind of wins the fight. But like I said, I'm not sold on Lando Vannata. I'm not sold on his kind of performance lately, where he's come in and won some fights, and he won that fight against Medeiros. I thought Medeiros did not look good in that fight, and I'm not taking anything away from Lando in that one, but to me, Yancey just didn't seem like he was. I don't know. I just don't think Yancey looked like the kind of Hawaiian warrior we're kind of used to seeing, and maybe he's starting to tail off a little bit, and Lando kind of managed to take the advantage of that there. But Bobby Green, to me, there's going to be a lot of output in this fight, and I think that I'm kind of struggling with a pick, but I don't like picking Lando Vannata, because half the time he shows up, you don't know what you're going to get. He gasses, he's very hittable. I mean, in that fight with Bobby Green, he got hit with like nearly 100 significant strikes. Bobby took him down, obviously Lando took him down. And it was a close fight. Outside of the kind of point deduction, it was a very close fight. And if that never happened, you probably have to give it to Lando. I'm going to go with Bobby Green in this one. So I think he's going to continue his kind of win streak. But again, I think it's going to be very, very close. I'm not confident in either side here. I think they're going to be hitting each other with some big strikes. I think that Lando's head is there to be hit. I don't think Bobby Green's got the power to take you out with a clean shot. Well, maybe with a clean shot he could, but I think he's more a kind of death by 1,000 kind of hits, pretty much. I'm going to take Bobby Green. I've got him via a split decision. I think it's going to be very close. I'm not confident picking Lando Vannata. I'm not really confident picking Bobby Green, but I think, like I say, in a fight which I think could be very close, I'll take Bobby Green, but like I say, I'm not super confident.
Yeah, I think Lando's not the same guy he was 3-4 years ago as well. I don't think Lando's anywhere, and it's crazy because it's not like he's past his sell-by date in age, but I think I just don't. I was loved watching Lando fight 3-4 years ago because you just knew what was going to come along. It was an exciting, crazy, wild fight, and he just pulled off some great fights and great wins. But in this day and age, I'm with you. I just step back when it's Lando. I don't have much faith in him. Bobby, on the other hand, we don't know what Bobby turns up, what mindset Bobby's in. But like you said, the Clay Guida one, I think we both thought Bobby would get it, and he could get it, and he should. And I think he should get the win here as well. I think, like you said, the volume is something. I don't think Lando could take 100 shots now, like he did back then, I think Bobby Green could 100% land that many shots on, and it would just cause Lando a lot more issues than it did back then. Like you say, gas tank's a big issue. Bobby doesn't really have a gas tank issue. I've never really seen Bobby Green super tired. I don't know about you. I can't recall watching Bobby Green gassing in fights. But like you say, he's a smart fighter. His output is not 100% in his strikes. He's just pat, and just breaking it down. I think Bobby should get the win on this one. I think Bobby should be able to stop Lando trying to get him down if Lando was trying to engage in the grappling aspect. And I think Bobby should just be smart and just really throw those hands and just really land some good hand shots on his face, because Lando gets hit far too many times. I do not enjoy how Lando gets hit too much. He's got quite a lot of scar tissue built up. You see Lando get cut quite often around the eyes and bleed. I don't see why Bobby couldn't light him up like that and just get him cut open and start winning the fight and taking the points up and start getting the rounds under his belt. I'm going a solid decision win for Bobby Green on this one.
This is a really good fight and a really interesting one. And both guys, I really like watching fight. It's Vicente Luque facing off against Randy Brown, who's definitely getting the kind of step up I think that he probably deserves after his last two performances. How do you see this one? I think it's a really interesting matchup.
It is an interesting one, because I think Randy, though, he's kind of grown in the UFC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, he's literally and a lot of guys could just crash and burn. I think, like, for example, for me, Mickey Gall hasn't grown in the UFC. I've not seen much of a difference in him in the UFC. To write home about, I think he's just a meh fighter. He's an average fighter. I think he'd be an average fighter in one of the other bigger promotions as well. But Randy Brown, Wally Alves, good fight. Don't get me wrong, Wally's not the fighter he was as well, like back in, say, 2013, 14, 15. Again, Wally Alves is kind of got off the ball. Brian Barberena's a tough one. He's a tough cat to fight. He's a hard out for anyone, Brian, because he just bites down and he just can wear you down with pure violence. He did solid in that fight. Nice performance again. Confidence is going to be high for the kid coming off those two nice little wins. The Nico Price one was mental. That's like a weird anomaly loss, you know, like how many guys have you seen get stopped like that? You don't see it happen. It's a weird one. It's a random knockout or TKO, whatever you want to call it, knockout. But man, I think Randy's got really good. He's starting to really get confident in using his range well as well, the length of his arms and legs and his output. He has got an okay chin on him. I think Vincent Luque, though, is a goddamn savage. Like, he's a violent, nasty man, Vincent Luque, and I love watching this guy fight. Vincent Luque will come forward with some combinations. He mixes it up well. And obviously he's got Henry Hoof, who's been helping out the striker. And you've seen it grow in leaps and bounds. I think Vincent Luque here will just... If we're in a smaller cage like we discussed, Will, if it is the smaller cage, I think it favours Vincent Luque more as well, because Vincent can keep it in the pocket for longer, where Randy would probably in this fight want to keep Vincent on the end of his punches, keep the 1-2s, teeps, front kicks, just to keep Vincent Luque at range, rather than letting him come in. But I think because with the size of the cage, if it is a smaller cage, certainly favours Vincent Luque, where I think he could just overwhelm Randy over the 2-3 rounds, maybe by the third get like a TKO stoppage, just pure volume and pressure, because it's exhausting running back. It is exhausting going backwards in a fight. So I'm favouring Vincent Luque here, but I think it's going to be a cracking... First 2 rounds are going to be absolutely beautiful to watch. I think it's going to be a great little fun fight.
Yeah, I actually think this is the fight. I'm looking forward to the main event, obviously, but this is the fight I'm really looking forward to. And I'll be 100% honest. I've loved what I've seen the last 2 fights from Randy Brown. I really think he's started to come into his own after that Nico Price fight, which is and kind of normally the way that fight was, the way that fight finished, where you get kind of knocked out from Price being on his back, which was kind of weird. But then he's came back and finished Barberena, which is no easy out. Going down to Brazil and beating Wally Alves, who's always tough, no matter whatever you fight him, but especially in Brazil there, where he got him with a beautiful triangle choke, and he really fell into that and to be fair, Alves really kind of started to kind of peter out and fade in that fight a little bit, and I think that really played into someone like Randy Brown's kind of wheelhouse there, because he was peppering him at distance and hitting with some nice shots, but he couldn't really stop the takedowns of Alves, but he kind of rode it out. He came through some kind of moments on the ground there, but when he got the opportunity to get the triangle choke, he caught it beautifully. So really nice finish there. Then you look at the Barberena fight there, where he caught him with a beautiful kick in the third round. But he was like, Barberena is known at eating a lot of shots and giving a lot of shots back. But Randy Brown was really keeping him at distance, boxing him up well, and not getting hit with any of the power shots that Barberena was throwing back. So, but I've never been... This to me is a big jump up from Alves and Barberena, in my opinion. And I will say this about Luque: he is I think he's one of the best fighters to kind of watch at 170. I think he's very talented, but I think there's holes in his game there where he can get hit a lot. And I think there's only like a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage for Brown in this spot here. And I don't think he's kind of got the true kind of boxing skills to keep it on the feet for 15 minutes and kind of win the fight there. Because I think that Luque is so good with his feints, so good with his kind of different attacks, and he's obviously a very, very good... I think he's a black belt on the mat as well. And he's not a fighter that usually takes the fight to the ground. And I don't think he will here. I think he will look to box with Randy Brown and see what he's got in the feet and try and keep it there. But, I mean, Wonder Boy was really kind of winding him up from distance. Now, Wonder Boy's got one of those games there where he's very hard to prepare for, and he was really just getting hit with abundance of strikes in that fight. And I actually bet Wonder Boy in that spot. I thought it was a great spot for him. I think he was an underdog in that fight, which was really weird to me. But even in the Mike Perry fight, fought super close there, got hit with a lot of shots, came through with a split decision there. That's a little bit alarming. But then came through an absolute war with Nico Price, where he hit with, I want to say it was 120 signature strikes. That's a lot of strikes, and especially against Nico Price, who's got a lot of power. So Barberena landed 169 significant strikes. That's crazy. So his defense lacks big time. So could Randy Brown maybe keep this at distance and maybe win the fight through that? Possibly. I just think that the more harder shots will land on the Luque side, and I think he'll win the fight there. But like I say, I'm interested to see what Randy Brown's going to do, because I like the step up for him from what he's faced. And Luque is definitely a step up, a guy who's always kind of floating around that top 15 of one of the best divisions at 170. So I'm going to take Vicente Luque. I think I'll take him via decision, but I think it could be close. I think Brown could make this a lot closer than... I've seen some people saying that Vicente Luque should be minus 400 in this spot. I'm like, no, I think you're talking out your arse there, personally. But I will take Luque for the win there. But I am looking forward to that fight. Co-main event of the night, we've got Jojo Calderwood jumping in here on very short notice. I want to say a week's notice, maybe a little bit longer than that. She faced Jennifer Maia, and I mean, it's a risk for Joanne Calderwood.
A little bit.
Yeah. I like the fact she's jumping back in. That she must know something regarding Valentina, or something must be going on for her to jump back into a fight. And the interview I was watching before I came on here with you was like, she's not fought since September in Abu Dhabi. I mean, Jojo likes to fight, and I think she was getting antsy at being outside the cage. It's been, coming on 9, 10 months, or whatever it may be. That Jojo likes to fight a couple of times in that period, and I know she had the championship fight there, but...
And COVID as well kind of messed things up for everyone.
You can't wait around. I think she's smart in taking this fight here, jumping back in here against Jennifer Maia, which I think is a good kind of stylistic matchup for her, where I think predominantly this fight's going to take place on the mat, on the feet, where I think Jojo, I mean, she's very hittable herself, but that's where she likes her kind of fights to stay. And then Jennifer Maia, she's shown that she kind of likes to kind of stand and bang a little bit. And she's more kind of I think, shoot-a-box kind of kickboxer. So this one could be very, very interesting. I think that, like I say, it's a big, big risk for Jojo. I like what she did with a kind of recent game of adding in takedowns. I think that's something she could use here, because Jennifer Maia, we don't really see that all too often. You've seen against Chukagian there where she kind of can fight at distance, get hit with shots. Calderwood's not really a fighter that kind of uses her distance. She can use her teep kicks up the middle, but she's one of these girls that kind of likes to get in a phone booth and just swing some leather. So that might kind of play into Maia playing like just a little bit back and forth between these two. I'm going to take Jojo because I know she's been in the in camp. She says that she's never really been out of camp since this fight's got made. So she's been training for Valentina, which was, I think, going to be a rough spot for her, but hey, it is what it is. She's jumping back in here, short notice, against Maia, tough girl. I think she just does enough, but I think there could be... Jojo, to me, she always gets hit a little bit too much for my liking. And her nose always seems to get busted, which in hindsight, they can never look good in the kind of judge's eyes. She's coming off a really nice win over Andrea Lee in Abu Dhabi, where she, like I say, she mixed in some takedowns, but she completely outstruck Andrea Lee in the feet. And I think Lee is a good striker herself. Went very close with Caitlin Chukagian, where I thought she was a little bit unlucky not to win that fight. And she seems to be in the best spot of her life ever since she's kind of went to Vegas. For some fighters, it's either good, it's either bad. She's loved it there. She's obviously met a guy who's a coach in John Wood that they two got on very well. Crisis, he even popped the question to her. So I'm going to take Jojo. I think she just outworks for Maia. She mixes it in, gets some takedowns maybe, and win a competitive decision. So I've got Jojo there.
Yeah, I think they must have looked at the tape of Jennifer Maia against Caitlin as well. They must have looked at it and went, we can mimic that and add to it to get the victory on this Jennifer Maia fight. Because that's the first thing I would have done. If you get the call about a short notice fight, give us 30 minutes, boom, watch that tape, go that. We could do that, but better. I think, like you say, we've seen Joanne, like you say, add the grappling aspect, and that's with Roxanne Modafferi helping her. Like them two are like two peas in a pod. You know, they're always doing stuff, and you always see them on social media posting with each other and stuff like that.
The thing as well is actually they've got a really good women's team.
Yes,
they've got their
load of them, yeah.
Yeah, which is really good. I think there's Emily Whitmire, Sarah Hoffman. So they've got a really good women's team at Syndicate. So that's only going to help here.
I would say that them and ATT have probably got the two kind of best stable of women's MMA girls, so to speak. They've got quite a few in both of them. ATT Florida, that is. I like the fact that if you're fighting Jennifer Maia, she is a girl like kind of Jojo, like you said, Will, dogged, likes to have a bit of a dogfight, likes to get in there close. I would like to see Jojo, because she's got the Muay Thai background, that's why she gets popped in the head a bit much. She doesn't have the boxing movement. She doesn't have a boxer's head movement. She has a Muay Thai stance, quite upright, just because with Muay Thai, what you're looking at, in Muay Thai, biggest thing, across in Thailand, what scores more points is leg kicks and kicks landing than punches. So they're not really bothered about punches coming because they're not going to win you a lot of points in Thailand because it's all based around betting and how you score it, and there's a methodology to each round and how you fight in Muay Thai. For me, I think Jojo, if she could just work a little bit on the head movement, I think she'd be absolutely murking Jennifer Maia with great counters, slipping off and landing some great counter shots. I think she'll take a few too many shots for my liking, but I think Jennifer Maia here, like you say, well, I think she can get outworked with Jojo, especially on the leg kick side of things with Jojo that she can throw. She throws some great leg kicks against Caitlin, and I think she should just apply that again. And Andrea Lee, I think Jojo should start to apply that a bit more to a game. I'd like to see Jojo start applying calf kicks into her arsenal, and I think she could here with Jennifer Maia. I think Jennifer Maia could be a little bit heavy forward on the front foot as well, so I think decision win for Joanne. I just think don't go crazy on it, pick the timings for the takedowns and just get a nice solid victory, get a decision win, put yourself in a good spot. Good 3 rounds will do Jojo the world of good as well, going into a title fight against Shevchenko. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not picking Jojo to beat Shevchenko, but it'd be just nice for her to get in there. She'll be the first Scot to ever go for UFC gold. So that's a nice little thing on your record. But yeah, I've got Jojo, bro.
Yeah, I like I say, I think it's a good fight. I think obviously a little bit of risk jumping in, but if she wins this fight, yeah, she really consolidates herself as probably the woman that's going to get the fight there. Because I mean, Calvillo coming in beating Ai the way she did, she's kind of in line there as well. That could kind of happen, but. Yeah, hopefully Jojo can get it done, because I've always thought that she would be the first person to kind of fight for a belt, and it'd be nice to kind of see someone from kind of my neck of the woods do that. So yeah, hopefully she can get it done there. And moving on to the main event, which is It's only 3 rounds because it's a short notice fight after Aldana and Holden kind of pulled out. You've got Derek Brunson against the surgeon Edmen Shahbazyan. I mean, this is a really, really, really good fight. I'm looking forward to seeing Shahbazyan in this one. Is it me or you actually talk first here?
Yeah, with me, it's me, bro. Yeah.
Thought that because I was about to talk. I was about to yipping off, but I'll let you go with it.
Well, you're right. It is interesting. What's Edmen going to do this time? Because it almost feels like each time he's performed, he brings something new out. But then again, is it he's bringing something new out, or is it the fact that he's not had a lot of ring time that we're just not being able to see parts of his game? Like Tavares, when he stopped him, that was absolutely bang on, that spot on. Oh. And Tavares is just a veteran of the game, very solid all rounder. Tavares is a great gatekeeper. He is a good little mark. He's your litmus mark on whether you're top 10 ready or not. And he absolutely put him away. And I was absolutely blown away with that performance. You know, I really didn't think it was going to be as easy as it was. Edmen's he's like a young kid, like a young child, no fear. He just goes 100 mile an hour. Now, reminds me a little bit of Derek Brunson, when Derek Brunson had that period of time where he just was fighting crazy, swinging for the fences and running at fighters and getting chinned and absolutely murked. But we've seen Derek Brunson of late change his fight game completely almost, where he's a far more patient, far more calculated fighter, and it's actually quite nice to watch. I actually enjoy watching Derek Brunson because I think he's a veteran. He's always got good wrestling. One thing Derek Brunson's always had is a solid little bit of wrestling background, and I think with this fight with Edmen, I just want to see what Edmen's going to do to try and stop him. Is he going to be aggressive and try to attack Derek Brunson and go for the knockout? Because we've seen Derek Brunson get rocked, we've seen him get hurt, or if he does Derek Brunson try to get the takedown? Now, because it's only 3 rounds, I think Derek Brunson will feel a bit of confidence here because it's not a 5-round fight. He'll feel like he could probably apply a bit of his game to him. So I'm kind of favouring towards Derek Brunson because he's not a young buck. He's been around the block. He knows the score. He's fought the who's who. Like, look at his roster. Look at his bloody record of fighters that he's fought. He's only losing to guys who are in the top 2, basically. Like Robert Whittaker, he's been top 2. I know. Then you had Anderson Silva, again, numero uno. And then he lost to Jacare again. Jacare was top 2. And then Adesanya, champ. So Derek Brunson isn't losing to guys. And obviously, Yoel Romero a while back. And as we all remember, that was the poop incident.
He fought a great fight, actually, in that fight.
It was a tremendous fight.
He won that fight, big time.
That head kick on Yoel Romero was insane, but don't forget, Yoel Romero's got no neck, so it didn't count. So it didn't affect him in any way. But as a whole, that was a tremendous fight. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, stylistically, it's going to be interesting because I look forward to seeing Derek Brunson. He got a couple of okay with Elias Theodoro, Ian Heinisch, solid little wins there to get under your belt, just to get you back in the groove of things, so to speak. You know, get himself back into confidence. I kind of feel Derek can get a win here. I feel like he can use his experience, use his knowledge. He'll have more tricks in his sleeve than Edmen will when it comes to maybe stealing rounds and getting those points. I go Derek with a decision because we don't know what Edmen's going to be like in round 2. We don't know what Edmen's going to be like in round 3. And I'm not saying, like, Israel, I've done this video with Israel Adesanya where I wrote him off early on and I thought, he's got to scupper at some point. Edmen could just go up all the way to the title fight. 100% he could do it, and I do not doubt him that he could. I'm just going to pick Derek Brunson, which I don't often do, but I'll pick Derek Brunson on this one.
Yeah, like I say, I'm kind of on the Brunson side, but I can see this fight to me is just really. I'm going to sit back and literally just watch this and see where Shahbazyan is because, I mean, you can look at what he's did in the UFC, and obviously he had his first fight with Darren Stewart, where, to me, I think that was a fight that. We've seen a lot from Shahbazyan, obviously, with his grappling, but he gassed really badly. So maybe something was going on in that camp there where he realised, like, I can't strike with this guy. I have to get my hands on him. I just have to really keep a hold of him. And he won that fight. That's a tough introduction to the UFC coming off the Contender Series. And obviously, he's Ronda's boy, so he's going to get pushed through the roof probably as quick as as anybody. So, but you cannot take away what he's did in his last 3 fights. I mean, he absolutely, those elbows to Charles Bird, he was in there on the legs of Shahbazyan, and pretty much with the first elbow that he threw, that fight was done. It was a definite knockout. Then the Marshman one, didn't really stand on the feet for too long, had a couple of strikes, but then he realised he probably had a massive advantage on the feet, got the takedown there, and he got the choke very, very quickly. And then the Tavares fight, I mean, that is a beautiful knockout, the way he hid that kick. And like Tavares never really even seen it coming. The way he got it up there so quick, he was nice and using a nice kind of educated long jab, was throwing at really nice angles, was feinting very well, and his confidence was through the roof. You could see that in that fight. And now he's getting Brunson here, and Brunson to me is a very live fighter in this one here, because I'm interested to see if Shahbazyan can get him out of there quick. Brunson is not an easy guy to fight because he's very awkward, he's long himself, he's very experienced, he's got a wrestling background. I think he's got probably the reach advantage, I want to say, in this one.
Don't know myself.
He does. He's got the reach advantage in this one by 3 inches. And like I say, we've not seen what Shahbazyan's like outside the first round when it's tough, it's close. But you can see, kind of like the Chimaev thing, you can see raw talent in a fighter.
Yeah.
And you can't see that with Shahbazyan. So you have to really be careful. This is why I look forward to fighters like him. This is why I'm looking forward to hopefully Chimaev gets a fight in August, because you can just see raw talent, and it's showing. Like, you can't take anything away from his last 3 wins, even though they're probably 4 minutes in total. He's went in there against more experienced fighters and ripped through them, and now he's getting a guy who's faced the who's who of the kind of middleweight division, if we're being honest with you here. You've got guys like Heinisch is a tough out, Adesanya, we've got Souza, we've got Machida, we've got Anderson, you've got Romero. So he's fought the who's who of the middleweight division, but there is obviously some glaring weaknesses. If he fights like he did against Robert Whittaker, where he comes forward and his chin's in the air, this guy is going to pick him apart. He's absolutely going to pick him apart. I think he's going to angle off to the side and catch him with a counter strike straight down the pipe. But I like what I've seen these last 2 fights. Kind of fought more composed, used his range, used his wrestling, and that's something I think that he can do here. But I'm going to go, like I say, we were talking before we even started doing this, that I thought that Brunson might be the pick here, but I'm going to stick with Shahbazyan. I'm going to go against you. We're going to go against each other here. I can definitely see a path to victory for Brunson, but I think Edmen, we're just going to see I think this is going to be a 15-minute fight. I don't think he takes Brunson out. I think we're going to see a very, very close 29-28 decision win for Edmen, where I think that Brunson will start getting too aggressive and he will get countered with some shots, which might open up the knockout, the TKO for Shahbazyan. But I think he wins I think this will be a good fight for him, getting 15 minutes in against a ranked guy. And then we're going to see what for the rest of his kind of career out. But he looks the part, does Edmen Shahbazyan, with his confidence and his striking and everything, really. So I'm going to go against you here. I'm going to pick Shahbazyan, even though I was kind of leaning on the Brunson side. But I'll take Shahbazyan by a 29-28 decision. So that's our picks done and dusted for this week. We're back next week for... Who are we back with next week? Olenek against Derek Lewis. I'll get into the kind of betting side of this. There's nothing, I haven't made any bets. The one bet I am looking at is a parlay at the minute of Ray Borg and what was the other guy? Vicente Luque. And I think Borg's like minus 187 here in the UK, and Vicente Luque is minus 175. So I don't know what that parlay is out to, but it'll be a nice plus 130 number maybe. So in around there, but I think it's a really tough betting card. Like if you're picking underdogs like John is in the main event, Derek Brunson, he's plus 270. For a veteran like him, that's a high number, and obviously there's a lot of hype on Shahbazyan. That line could actually kind of go up a little bit, because I think a lot of people will start to jump on him. Outside of that, I think Ed Herman's not a bad kind of dog bet there at plus 160. Actually, geez, I didn't realise it was that high. I thought it was lower than that. But then you've got, I quite like Perez at minus 200 as a parlay piece. I do kind of think that Emmers has opportunities against Valiev, I think, but because Valiev, I think, fights so close sometimes. So
would it be worth would it be worth, bro, looking at Valiev as goes distance?
Absolutely. I don't know what the odds on that are. Let me just check.
I don't know if they're out, obviously, but
Valiev wins by decision -115. So that's how he's going to win. I don't think he knocks him out. I don't think he submits him. So I think if he wins by decision. So you're nearly getting plus money for it. I would have preferred to get plus money on that if needs be. But like I say, Jojo, you can maybe play straight. She's plus 110 to win via decision. I think that's not a bad bet. But as of right now, the only bet I have, or the bet I'm looking at, is Ray Borg, Vicente Luque parlay. But I'll not be having much action compared to what I had on Fight Island, where I was betting a lot more. There was a lot more spots I liked. There was obviously 15 fights on cards, and you're picking out a little bit more. So I'll not be having too much exposure to this card. I'll be looking forward to a little bit next week, and then UFC 252.
Yeah.
That one there. So, that's us done for this week, guys. We'll be back next week for Olenek against Lewis. There are some fairly decent scraps on that card. I'm looking forward to seeing. Let me bring that card up at the minute.
He's got to change his ring name, hasn't he? Now, Derek. He's got to change it to Derek. He's okay, Lewis.
He's okay. That's funny. Chris Weidman's back against Omari Akhmadov, so that's a great co-main event. You've got Dariush, who's actually a favourite of mine. I really like watching Brunel Dariush fight. Perez is making his comeback. You've got Giga fighting again. Wellington Turman's a guy I'm looking forward to seeing again. So, till next week, guys. I forgot to say this at the start. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Leave a comment down below. Help us grow the channel. Until next week, guys, all the very best.
Well, I forgot to say happy birthday to Mrs. So, happy birthday to the Mrs.
Okay. Happy birthday to the Mrs. John's Mrs. All the best, guys, and we'll catch you next week.